Moshe Rabbeinu received the Torah from Sinai and Masara Lieshua and transmitted it to Yeshua. Yedo die Quakes Marichamad more because of the Ramas from Moshe Kibbel Shnas Tavshin Beis. Known the examination and analysis of this of the Frierdiker Rebbe of the year Tavshin Beis 1942. Why does he say over here in this Mishnah Moshe Kibbel Torah Misinai, that Moshe received the Torah from Sinai? He should have said HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nasan as Torah LaMoshe, that Hashem gave and transmitted the Torah to Moshe. If you think about it, that the other parts of the Mishnah is talking about the transmission. It doesn't say about, and Yeshua received it from Moshe, and the Zakanim received it from Yeshua. No. Later on the Mishnah, it says that he transmitted it to Yeshua, and Yeshua gave it over to the Zakanim, and the Zakanim did Nevi'im. Yet the beginning of the Mishnah, the emphasis on Moshe Rabbeinu receiving it, not the giving. We also know that there's two terms. There's Matan Torah and Kabbalah Torah. The more common term that's used is really Matan Torah. So again, why is the emphasis in this Mishnah the words קיבל Torah Misinai? They received instead of that Hashem gave him the Torah. Another question the Frierdiker Rebbe examines over there, not my merim, the Mishnah Zuchashev Inyan Va'ofen Kabbalah HaTorah V'Shtalshlusim V'Dor V'Dor. This Mishnah, he enumerates the idea and the manner of the receiving of the Torah and the way it went and continued from generation to generation, as we said before, the Yeshua, the Zakanim, to the Nevi'im, etc. That's what the Mishnah enumerates. The Koi al Mesoiras v'Kabbolas HaTorah Shebal Peh Kula. It's referring to the tradition and the transmission and the receiving of the entire oral Torah. That's the main point over here of the Mishnah about how the oral Torah was transmitted. The oral Torah was transmitted in a way that it went from person to person. The written Torah, it's not about giving over. The written Torah was in a sefer. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote 13 Sifrei Torah, which he gave out to the different Shvatim. There was no need for Moshe to give to Yeshua to Zakanim. When we talk about Moshe giving over to Yeshua, we're talking about the things that Moshe Rabbeinu was imparted as a private individual, not as a private individual, but personally imparted by Hashem. That oral Torah, he was imparted by Hashem, and now he shared it with Yeshua. And Yeshua was the repository of the oral Torah of Torah until he shared it with the Zakanim. The Zakanim shared the oral repository of the Torah, and so on and so forth. So therefore, taking this in consideration, this is like the underlying provenance, the underlying validity of the entire Torah Shabbat Peh. Being that this is giving the underlying validity and provenance for the entire Torah Shabbat Peh, it should have been at the introduction, at the beginning of Torah Shabbat Peh. According to this Mishnah should have been placed at the beginning of all the 6 orders of the Mishnah. It's placed many orders in. There's 6 orders. This is after Droim, Moed, you have over there Nashim, then goes Nezikim, and then Kachim Bataris. So it's like the 4th order of the Mishnah is in. Matam Kavua ben Nezikim. Why was it established and set this transmission and the provenance of the oral Torah in Seder Nezikim? And in Seder Nezikim itself, he didn't say it at the beginning of Seder Nezikim. The Seders are go for the Sefer, and the order of Nezikim itself at the end of the whole entire Seder Nezikim. There's a lot of Masechtas in Seder Nezikim of Shas. So where is it? Towards the end of Seder Nezikim, Bagdam is Masechtas Avos, in the introduction to Masechtas Avos, the Chol Masechtas, that the entire Masechta of Avos Mishtoy b'mailas midas van Hogus Taivus speaks about the advantages of good attributes and character traits and good ways of acting. So the question is, why specifically do we speak about the provenance and the source of Torah Shabbat Peh, specifically when we're talking about Pirkei Avos? It says, Mevar B'Zeh Maimer, and the Maimer Rebbe explains, B'Shem Mefarshei Mishnah, the name of the commentaries on the Mishnah that speak about the Seidos as well. The Hi'anisanis. This is the very reason, because it's talking about Midos, because it's talking about Hanogas Taivus, that's why it's placed at the beginning of Masechtas Avos. Why? The Dafka Masechtas will cover Chum Mishnahs of the Meshkabal Torah Sinai specifically. In this Masechta, the Chum established, and they placed this mission of Moshe received the Torah Sinai. Loim will to tell you that the midas and the ethical teachings of this Masechta, like the sages of Mishnayos did not make this up. Like there are different attributes and different types of ethical teachings from the nations of the world. One might think, okay, Jews have ethical teachings that they made up, just like other wise people from other cultures and nations made up different things. Therefore, it has to place us right at the beginning of this Masechta devoted to ethical teachings to tell you Allah af elu namrim Sinai. Also, these were said on Har Sinai. Also, the ethical teachings, not just the different quote unquote religious laws or even civil laws, but even ethics, the Chacham did not make up by themselves. It was also given on Har Sinai. India doing its no, Chazal said, the first Redeemer is the final Redeemer, meaning that Moshe Rabbeinu, being the first to take the Yidden out of Golos, is connected and has an association with Mashiach, who is the final Redeemer. According to that idea, that Moshe is the first Redeemer and he's the final Redeemer, connected with Mashiach, we can connect the idea that Moshe received the Torah on Sinai. The Moshe is the first Redeemer. In Gilui time with Torah, the Mashiach came to loss with the revelation that's going to be through Mashiach, that he's going to reveal the secrets and the reasons of the Torah. Allah calls us to be able to understand all of these questions and issues. The lost loving seat. We need a preface what it says concerning the Torah of Mashiach's times. Torah Chadasha Me'iti Teitze. Chazal explain, says in the pasuk Torah Me'iti Teitze, Torah will come out from me. So the Chazal say that what do you mean it will come out? Because it's talking about Torah Chadash. Another thing the Chazal said, the Torah Olam Hazeh, heavily L'gabe Torah Shem Mashiach Kedisa B'Kelas Rabbah, that the Torah of this world is like vanities, insignificant in comparison to the Torah of Mashiach. This means to say the noise will say Torah the Achra, that Torah in Nitzchis, in addition to the fact that there will be the Torah of the present, and the Torah of the present is not going anywhere. Torah is everlasting. It's known the statement what the Alter Rebbe brings down in Tanya. The giving of the Torah was only once. There's not going to be a new Matan Torah for Torah Mashiach to like Hashem replace our present Torah. Rather, in addition to the present Torah that we have now, in addition to that, Torah Chadash will be a new Torah, and our present Torah will be like Hevel, like insignificant in comparison to that new Torah. Because, like it says in the pasuk, we say this in the Torah of Achron Shal Pesach, Yaskalav the Yod of Nisim V'Gavamoid, behold, my servant will either be successful or there will be a great mind, exalted and raised up and high, very much so. Isra Medrash has brought down the Medrash on Kumbam, Yarum, Yavram, he will be higher. Why all these different expressions of exaltedness and rising up? It's to teach us that will be higher than Avram, than Nisa. The other expression means even greater than Moshe. In another place it's brought down, that when it comes to prophecy, No one's going to be a prophet like Moshe, but in other things, he will be higher than Moshe. What does this all come to teach you? That the Mashiach Torah will be of a different level. The revelation of Torah through Mashiach will be higher even than Moshe. The Ein Zepel. Seemingly, how can you say that? He says it's not such a wonder. It's brought down Gemara Menach is an interesting story. Legabe Rabbi Kiva, in regards to Rabbi Kiva, Shehero HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe, that Rabbi Kiva, Hashem showed Rabbi Kiva to Moshe Rabbeinu. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu was shown all the leaders of all the generations, and he was allowed to sit in on a fear of Rabbi Kiva. And Moshe was sitting and listening. Rabbi Kiva give a shir, and he was sitting beside Shemaina Shuris v'chol. He was sitting behind at the end of 8 rows, the way it was that the higher Talmidim sat closer, the lower Talmidim sat further. And when he heard Rabbi Kiva say things that he didn't teach, he felt very bad. He felt very weakened that how does Rabbi Kiva know things that I don't even know, that Rabbi Kiva derived from the Torah? Rabbi Kiva told Moshe Rabbeinu asked Rabbi Kiva, where's your source for these teachings, for these things that you are saying? Where's this for? Where do you get this? Amar, Rabbi Kiva responded, it's a law to Moshe and Har Sinai. And Moshe Rabbeinu's mind settled down. Let's explain somewhere else the explanation of these matters. What does it mean? How did Moshe Rabbeinu not recognize it? And then Rabbi Kiva said, we got this all from Moshe Rabbeinu. And now he's happy. We got it from me. So why don't you know what it is? How could both those things be? That comes from Moshe, and then Rabbi Kiva is telling him this. Though everything that a diligent student will in the future bring a new interpretation of the Torah was given to Moshe on Har Sinai, so that new interpretation that was given to Moshe on Har Sinai, how was it given? Especially, like the Rebbe in another place points out, you can't get a chiddush of the Talmud Vos. You can't get a novel interpretation of this diligent student. So how can it be a novel interpretation of this diligent student? And at the same time, it was given to Moshe and Har Sinai. Yeah, Peter was who the meaning of this is. Moshe nitnu Sinai haklolim, the klolim top of the second page of the Maim. And Har Sinai, Moshe Rabbeinu was given the rules and the principles by which one can derive all the different halachas and even the rules of the rules. And from these rules that Moshe Rabbeinu was given on Har Sinai, so the sages in every generation derived the Yud Gimel Midas HaTorah Dreshes Bem, either by the 13 principles that the Torah is derived from. That's what it's. We say this every single morning, right before Hodu, that Rabbi Shmuel enumerates the 13 principles. So therefore, it's inherent in the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu already taught, based on the principles. If you follow the principles, how you're supposed to derive it. In another place, it speaks about that there's not 13 principles, speaks of different numbers, like the Lamed Beis in Midas, it enumerates 32 principles of derivation. But the point is, based on those principles, we derive as protein yonim the specific details of the matter. So it's really all inherent in Moshe Rabbeinu. So in a similar vein, though Matan Torah was only once, and Moshe Rabbeinu's Torah may not be the same level of Torah as Mashiach, but Mashiach's Torah is already part of and derived from the one Matan Torah that took place with Moshe Rabbeinu. That says second line from the top of the second page. Well, Gam Torah Shaydei Mashiach is also concerning the Torah through Mashiach. Concerning Mashiach, they said, that my servant will come to great understanding. The details will be new, just like we say, Talmid Vasik Asur L'Chadash. Even more so that it will be new details, but it will be like an entirely new Torah. Like Chazal said, the Menachos concerning Matan Torah, Yavai Toiv Zem Moshe, let the one who is Toiv, that is Moshe, come. That's the idea of Moshe Rabbeinu being called Toiv, like it says that his mother saw him and he was good. Be a Kabul Toiv Zu Torah, and it says Kilekach Toiv Nasati Lochem. The Torah is called good as well. So let Toiv come and receive Toiv. Mi Toiv Zakadosh Baruch Hu, from Toiv, that's Hashem. The board become like explained in many places, and also in Sharamun of the Middle Rebbe and other places. The Afshem Mefurish Kan. Though it's explained over here, that's referring to the Matan Torah from Hashem. They call Malkim Koizal Gileater the lost of the Mashiach Tzidkenu. Still in all, it's referring to the ultimate good and the ultimate revelation that will be of the revelation of Mashiach's Torah. That's the deeper meaning of the one who is Toiv will receive from Toiv. Moshe Rabbeinu in the spiritual levels, we know that Moshe Rabbeinu has to do with Chachma, and because he has to do with the level of Chachma, he is connected with the inner level of Atik Yomin. But what is the inner level of Atik Yomin itself, which is going to be revealed in Mashiach, not via Chachma? It's a revelation from Mashiach. So the ultimate level of Toiv, the highest level of Toiv, will be when Mashiach comes. Any questions? Second paragraph on the second page. Seemingly, when you understand the reason for the fact. The fact when Mashiach comes will be a revelation of the new Torah. For what reason does there have to be a new Torah? Why do we need that? We explained this according to what's explained in a Maimer the Frierdiker Rebbe, called he wraps his light like a cloak of the year Tafshin. Remember Shabbos Parshas Kedoshim that was said in Shabbos Parshas Kedoshim in 1940. And that year Parshas Kedoshim in 1940 was similar to the Kviyas of 1984 when the Rebbe said. What is the purpose of Torah? That's an intermediary between Hashem and the Yidden, and between the infinite light of Hashem and the world. That's the idea, that he wraps himself with light like a cloak, and he spreads out the heavens like a sheet. These things are referring to Torah, that is an intermediary. The light that's like a covering for Hashem, like a cloak, that's like the Torah that encloaks and covers Hashem. It's an intermediary and in between Hashem and the world. Based on this, since Torah becomes an intermediary between Hashem and the worlds, it's understood why in the future there's going to have to be a revelation of a new Torah. We're going to need to have a new level of intermediary, just like in the future when Mashiach comes. The world is going to be on a higher level. The world is going to be in a totally new level. A new heavens and a new earth. In a similar vein, there will be an advantage and an elevation and a new state of the Yidden. Like explained in a different place, the it says at the end of that pasuk of Yaskulavdi, it says he will be high, very much so. We've had this in previous Ramarim, that means that he will be higher even than Adam. How do we see that Gava Ma'oid is referring to Adam edition? Tevas Ma'oid Yosis Adam. The word Ma'oid, very, is the same letters like the word Adam. Aval B'tziruf Acher, but in another combination. That shows on being beyond measure and boundary. That instead of Adam, which shows on a limitation, a human being, a person that occupies time and place, Ma'oid, as we know, so this shows unbelievable. So that shows that Mashiach is going to be in a level of Ma'oid as opposed to Adam Rishon being Adam. This means Mashiach is really not just a personal thing, but he's going to exemplify the entire state of Klal Yisrael. He's the Neshama Klalis, that the entire state of Klal Yisrael will be in a unique and high and elevated way. So because the worlds will be higher and because the Yidden will be higher, that's why their intermediary between Hashem and the worlds and the Yidden also has to be higher. So too there has to be an ascent and elevation also in the Torah. Because the Torah is an intermediary between the infinite light of Hashem and the world, and between Hashem and the Yidden, so therefore it needs to be of a totally different quality, of a totally different level. The Rebbe goes on in the third paragraph, we still need to have an explanation. The very fact that the revelation of the new Torah is coming about through Mashiach, Mashiach is the one that reveals this new Torah. Moving, it's understood. Mashiach is even higher than the level of the new Torah. We need to understand the concept behind this of Mashiach being even higher than it. For someone to reveal something, for someone to share something, he has to be higher than that. Just like in a simple sense. If I share an idea with someone else, it's because I own it. I am higher than the idea. I have more knowledge to be able to share it. The same thing if Mashiach is bringing this forth, so he's even higher than the level of Torah. He's not just a recipient, like Klal Yisrael in the world is a recipient of the Torah as an intermediary between Hashem and the world, but he owns that Torah that he's sharing. In Yehud, but the idea behind this is in addition to the fact that the Torah is an intermediary between the Yid and Hashem, like the Chazal say, Yisrael, but I said that Yid and Torah and Hashem are entirely one. That means that the bonds of the Yid and Hashem is through the Torah. There is another aspect in the Yid, which is exemplified by what we just now said about Mashiach, that's higher, and it's not the recipient from Hashem through Torah, but rather even higher in the fact that Hashem and the Torah are entirely one. My Medrash become Medrashim, like Chazal say in many Medrashim, that the thought of a Yid preceded everything. I feel the Torah that Hashem thought about the Yidden. Hashem had in mind the Yidden even before he had in mind the Torah. Where do we see this from? Like the Savas B'nai Yisrael, Dabar B'nai Yisrael. In the Torah it says, command the B'nai Yisrael, speak to the B'nai Yisrael. That means there's a B'nai Yisrael before there's the commands of the Torah to speak to them. That means that the Yidden have their source in a higher place than the Torah. Now the Rebbe says, this doesn't make a difference whichever level of Torah we're talking about. The Inyan Zel, B'chola, Dargish, B'Torah, this idea that Yidden are higher and preceded Torahs in all the levels of Torah, even in the most highest level of Torah, even in that level where we say that the Torah and Hashem are entirely one, because in every part of Torah it says, Torah is true in every level it says, command the B'nai Yisrael, speak to B'nai Yisrael. And that's even in the level that the Torah and Hashem are entirely one. That's understood from this for Yisrael. That the Eden are higher even than this level on the Torah. Like it's known Yisrael, that Eden are called children to Hashem. They're like the child was part of its father before the child was born, prior to separation. Mishum Shehem Mushrashi, on top of the next page, because Eden are rooted in Hashem's very essence, just like a child comes from the essence of his father. Because of Yeden's higher source in the Torah, Yeden affect, influence, and draw down godliness into the Torah. Therefore, the revelation of the new Torah when Mashiach comes is specifically through Mashiach, who comes from Yisrael. Because Mashiach is the general Yechida, the Yechida of the entire Klal Yisrael. He's even more so that he's even higher than the general Yechida. Like it's known, that even the level of Yechida, the Yechida Klolis, and so too even the general Yechida of the entire Klal Yisrael, it's only part of the 5 names that an Neshama was called. A name already shows it's not the essence. The essence of the Neshama is even higher than Yechida. And so just like the etzem of an individual Neshama, it's higher than Yechida. Mashiach is higher than all the level of names, even higher than Yechidah Klal. And the same vein, it is to be found by the Yidden when Mashiach comes. This revelation that the Yidden have this type of connection beyond names, beyond Yechidah, will be in the revealed by Yidden when Mashiach comes. From the Yidden's high level that will come down also in the Torah, because Torah a new Torah comes out from me. Since this idea, the ascent and the high level of Yidden of Mashiach's time, that will come down the Yidden the way they are souls inhabiting bodies. The Torah like to explain the look of the Torah and the Ramarim of the Rabbeim after this, that the ruling of the halacha is the Iker V'Shleimus Haskar Vagilim, the law in Yudafka V'Shamas Begufin. The primary and perfect reward and the revelations of the future time will be specifically in the Shamas and bodies. So just like the Yidden will have that high level when they're in the Shamas and bodies, so too the revelation of the new Torah will be coming down here in this physical world, just like the Neshamas come down here in this physical world. In a call, you learn the laws of all the revelations of the future is dependent upon our actions and service throughout the entire time of the Golos. Even before Golos only started 2,000 years ago, or Mitzrayim, or whenever Golos started. In general, it's the oldest 6,000 years of the world that we are creating the situation of Mashiach's time. The main and primary avoid is the avoid of refining the sparks of Toyu that fell down, the breaking of the vessels of Toyu. The main Shviras Hakelim was in the 7 emotions of Toyu, not in the levels of Chokmah bin Adas. Therefore, our primary avoid is refining the 7 attributes of a person. Kibush Zayin Amim, which corresponds to the conquest of the 7 nations. Aknani, Achiti, Aprizra, and Moiri, that's Nart Yisrael, Kemavur Baruch, like to explain at length in a different place that is the primary service of a person to deal with his midas. And the power and empowerment for these refinements, why they are is through drawing down from the essence of the soul that we spoke about before. Because we are drawing down from the essence of our soul, that's why we can deal with the midas that come and are so high in the world of Torah. That's why Chazal said on the pasuk that the spirit of Elokim was hovering upon the waters. That's the spirit of Mashiach. The Hainum, the Ruchish of Mashiach, the spirit of Mashiach was already revealed at the time of the creation. Why? Mashiach is for after the Golos. Why is it there at the beginning? Because the reason for that is from Mashiach is the empowerment for the person's service. Yet it says over there it was on the face of the waters. That means it was above the world. Beyond the waters and the state of concealment. And the revelation of this power of Mashiach to be able to overcome the midas and refine it, that is through Torah. That's why it says Moshe received the Torah from Sinai, the Moshe who goel Rishon, who goel Achra, and Moshe, the first Redeemer, that empowered and enabled the final Redeemer, Mashiach, to become revealed in every year to give him this power. But who קיבל Torah Sinai? He was one that received it from Sinai, and v'imshich Elohim Hazan drew it down to this world. Because of קיבל Torah Sinai, that's why it said he received the Torah Sinai. But not that Hashem gave him the Torah. The main point over here is the reception of it, not the gift that was given from above. It means to say that that thing was received over here in its perfect state. That empowered the avoid of refinement of the sparks that came from the breaking of the refining of the vessels of Toyu. Matamza Kalba Mishnah Zavagdama Mishnah Zuk Bagdamas Misaks should be saying in Zikin Davke. For this reason, this Mishnah was established at the introduction of the Misaks Avis in the order of Nezikin. The Indians say in Nezikin who in Avoid the San Birudim on the Tzoytes Shanafel Meshviras Akela. The whole Seder Nezikin, it deals with monetary laws, it deals with damages. It's the lowest of the low in this world, where there's even disputes and even Zroim, which deals with things of this world, agricultural laws, but it's not about disputes and arguments. So here you have the most lowest situation, and over there you're being refining the sparks that fell from Shviras Akel. And in Satan Nezikin itself, it was specifically in the Masechta Avos, the main thing is about refining the emotional attributes canal, because that's the primary avodah. That's why it says Moshe received the Torah from Sinai. And he transmitted to Yeshua that his kingdom. The Koyal say that it's referring to the chain order of descent of the transmission of the oral Torah. All of it was given from our Sinai. From the Torah we have the power to refine the entire world. Especially when we fulfill the directive of the men of the Great Assembly that says, establish many students. By establishing many students, we spread the Torah and we elevate the entire world. Like days of burn, much through this, we arrive at what it says at the beginning of the Perek and at the conclusion of the Perek. At the beginning of the Perek, it says that, almost the beginning of the Perek, says that on three things the world stands. And at the end of the Perek, it says that on three things the world exists. Until one of those three things, the idea of peace, through Shleimus HaKoil. Peace is the perfection of everything. And the peace itself will be in its most perfect state. The perfect peace will be in the future time. Let's explain this somewhere else, even beyond the peace of Shlomo HaMelech. Be as Mashiach Tzidkeinu, in the coming Mashiach Tzidkeinu speedily in our days.